know. I mean, it is sort of a racing incident, but younger drivers have been getting the heat this year because we're not just seeing these style, and maybe they're not meaning to do it because we're not used to seeing so many people pull these aggressive moves on the racetrack. And you got to think, where are they learning to drive this way? And some people could say examples, this, that, and the other. But I mean, to be all honest with you, I think that a big issue in kids over driving the race cars nowadays, and it may sound stupid and I may sound like a old Cratchit or something, especially for us in our 30s age, but I'm going to blame video games and iRacing just a little bit. I mean, the similarities of what they're doing in the games and the simulators trying to learn and get better. And then also, experience things you can't experience anywhere else. The actual good training utilizations of simulation racing are being used. I think a lot of these kids are able to just jump in different cars and stuff and adapt relatively quickly because they're able to jump in all these cars in a virtual way and at least have an idea of how the other car may drive or react. Like if one of these kids wanted to go jump from a sprint car to a late model, I mean, if they just get out of this car and jump into a late model versus get out of this car and then go run 200 or 300,000 laps in a week's time in a late model on iRacing, they're going to have a lot better shot at driving that late model just based on that iRacing experience in a virtual late model. If they would have never had that, they would have just got into a car with no idea at all of what could happen, how it could drive, how it could lay, where's the good spot to pin the car, stuff like that, how to enter differently. You can kind of get that. But at the same time, the one negative to iRacing is this aggressive style of fuck it that we are seeing by the younger kids is rampant in iRacing. This style of run in there and throw a slider and you're not trying to wreck them, but you do, who cares? The reset button. This is the way that they race on these games. They race aggressive. They throw moves in there that you shouldn't do. And even in the game, maybe sometimes they work, maybe sometimes they don't. But I mean, I think that's where visually they're in the car and they see a opening and they got so many, muscle memory situations from the sim racing stuff of just go for it, take it, that's happening in real life. And maybe in the game, the other guy gets the bad end of the stick, but they don't have to pay for it when they do. So it's not only teaching them possibly aggressive driving styles and tactics, but it's also teaching them to do those aggressive style of driving and tactics and have no repercussions for not only yourself, but the other guy who gets his car junked. There is no money factor or repair car in the simulation world. So, I mean, they're not really getting trained a response or a big time negative response for pulling such an aggressive move. So I think that's also playing a part here. And honestly, it just dawned on me to think that maybe the sim racing stuff correlating with these kids the kids nowadays are driving these iRacing cars since 8, 9, 5, 4, 6, 7 years old. That's how me, Larson, and Swindell and Bell, even and Logan Seavey, we all know each other from racing freaking R Factor 20 years ago. When we were a lot younger. I remember me and Kyle were like buddies and kicking ass on the sim stuff, and I go to take a dump, and I'm reading Sprint Car Midget magazine. I get to the back of it, and it's like up and comer, and it's Kyle. I get on the Ventrilo or whatever the hell it was at the time. Some people know what that is, but I mean, get on there and like, what the hell are you doing in a magazine? You're actually decent over there in California, talking shit. Ricky Thornton Jr.'s in there. Yeah, Chaz, So, I mean, it's funny how that much of a future in motorsports was actually sim racers like 20 years ago. And there wasn't many people doing it, but the elites of the sim racing world back then are kind of bigger in today's society for racing, but for sure when you think about Larson and Bell and even Ricky Thornton Jr. and CV and Kevin Swindell and even myself, I'll throw myself in there a little bit. Mike McKinney, you know what the hell I'm talking about, you damn lap car. But anyways, I'm just saying these kids are doing these simulation games from a very young age, and the muscle memory and things that you should do on the track, their first experiences of those things on what to do, even in a big sprint cars in the simulators of the world. So I think that is playing a factor, because we are seeing a lot of the younger ages pull these ultra aggressive moves. And it's like, who taught them that? Where did they learn that? And like I said, I don't want to sound like a Cratchit who says the violence in video games is what's causing violence. I mean, the weird part about that, and the reason that even was a headline, is because it had a slight little bit of validity for people to even actually think that video game violence caused real violence. But I wouldn't necessarily go to that extreme. But I definitely think that it desensitizes people to what happens when it goes wrong. Like, if a person, like in a video game, you walk up and shoot somebody and you run away, that's not what happens. I mean, you run up and shoot somebody and their guts fall out and they start screaming like you've never heard before, and there's blood everywhere and it's squirting all over. Like, that's what actually happens. I grew up in the hood. I'm sorry. I know about some of this stuff. I was on the streets of LA as well. But at the end of the day, that's what happens. You know, and if the game didn't train them that, you know, or if the game, you know, didn't train them that when that happens, you don't just run away and don't see or hear or feel anything. You know, no, there's like some real shit that just happened when you did that. I mean, similar in this situation, you know, it's desensitized the repercussion. In the game, you run in there, you take the shot. Oh, you fuck it up. Okay, well, you know, reset, you know, and the guy that you potentially wrecked, oh, he's fine. He's maybe pissed I did him wrong, but who gives a fuck? That's it, right? No, there's a guy on the ground over here with the car upside down and money's flying everywhere. Just like, you know, just like the blood situation. I'm just saying. But maybe this does correlate. I think potentially there is some little correlation with the young racers of today's society being ultra aggressive and maybe being desensitized to the repercussions when it goes wrong on the real racetrack versus the fake one.
This is how we ride. This is how we do. Riding mud, sliding up.